this fine sunny day. Looks promising so far. Right, so today we're going to go back to looking at the Assault poem by Erno Müller, the World War poem which we have been exploring this week. So we're going to look at stanzas 3 and 4. So if you haven't done so, the poem is on the Aim Higher resources page, which is in files. You have to ask to join it. There you get a blank copy and those questions that we'll be working on today. If you haven't done so, it doesn't matter. You can still have a look at the poem. There is a copy online, and you can just follow us as we go through it. At the end of this week, beginning of next week, we're going to start looking at analysing the poem and annotating it, and then being able to write critical essays, which is really important as you go up through school. But I'll explain more about that next week. Today's word of the day, stealth, which is a noun. It means a couple of things. It can mean to move with stealth, so like creeping around, you know, like a kind of criminal or burglar. Or it can be like secretive movement, but it's also focusing mainly on aircraft, which is why it links to war, which is the theme this week. So it just means designed with technology to avoid radar detection. For example, you've maybe heard of a stealth bomber, so that's a plane that cannot be seen on radar. So that's what the word stealth means, that you can move with secrecy. And today's spelling word for our spelling bee, a week today, woo, is hostility. Hostility. Right, as always, the cheesy pun of the day. Don't listen to him. He's lying. Holly is scratching at the door to get out. I'll let her in a minute. To get in, I mean. Right, so the first task, just to get our cogs a-turning, is letters during war, both back home to the soldiers and from the soldiers back home, were really important. So I just want you to try and think of a few things why those letters were so important. So think about it from a soldier's perspective and from the perspective of the people at home. So why were the letters back and forward so important throughout war if you were away serving for the army? Alexa, play. Alexa, stop. Good morning, Orla. Thanks very much. I got it from a well-known supermarket. I better not say who it is, but let's just say it rhymes with fresco. How did you get on? So you might have come up with a few ideas. Here's the dog scratching again. She wants to be famous, I think, does my Holly. Don't you? I just wish she was less chubby so that she could jump up. Gimme! Gimme! You might be able to just see the top of her head. Or maybe not. The camera's moved up a bit. Never mind. I'll try and wheel her in one day. So letters home are really important. There's obviously a multitude of reasons why, but it was their only way of keeping in contact. Obviously the soldiers, a lot of the time, they may lie about the conditions because obviously they didn't want to alarm the people at home, or there were obviously things that they weren't allowed to say in case the enemy got hold of the letters, but they were just that little link from like to and from home. So obviously it was really important. And Wilfred Owen, who we've been studying in the other set of classes, who I mentioned last week, his letters to his mum were what kept him going throughout the whole time. So obviously it's just that little glimmer of hope that you would transfer between each one. Alright, so just summing up the poem then, so it explores the devastating effect of war, and you know, this section we're looking at today is really focusing on the appalling conditions of the war zone, and obviously the whole poem looks at the fear and drama created on a battlefield. So if I just read stanzas 3 and 4 first. A command, like a cold shower to revive the mumbling shadows. I fixed my bayonet, scrambled over the open trench, and struggled through the thick, pasty mud. It was quiet as we walked, except for the sucking, groaning, squelching sound which came from the wet earth as it tried to creep into our stockings. That was a mouthful and a half. Ran out of breath there, did you hear that? Because remember what I said? With enjambment, you just keep reading on and on. There's no pausing in a poem unless there's punctuation, and that makes it a lot easier to understand when you start doing that, rather than it was quiet as we walked. Except for, you know, you don't read it like that. Alright, so going over the questions that I posted then. So 8A, pick out and quote the simile near the beginning of the stanza. So by now you should have a really good idea of what all these techniques are. If you haven't, all the videos are there. Do you hear her? Holly, stop it. She's doing a bit of dancing down here. Dog dancing. She better pause. Sorry. There's another pun. You know how I love it. So the simile is like a cold shower to revive the mumbling shadows. We're going to look at that a wee bit more in a minute. And then the next question part of it was, in your own words, explain what impact the command has on the speaker. So that's obviously the person speaking, that's what we call it. We don't call it a narrator really. It's a speaker because these are meant to be read aloud poetry. So that's the soldier basically. So you have to try and put it in your own words what impact that has. So just think, what impact would a cold shower have on you? So I've just written here, a cold shower jolts your body or your nervous system to increase alertness. So obviously you'd be like, whoa, because I'm sure you've all done that. You know, when you go in and you put it on just for those few seconds before it heats up and you're like, ah! So that, quiet! She obviously wants to be in this today, sorry. The clarity, so that just means everything's clear, and energy, so it just like revive is the word that he used, isn't it? So here the simile is used to show that the men were in a daze or a state of shock, but then hearing that command, whatever it was, shakes them into action. So it's just like acted like a, you know, a verbal cold shower. So they were maybe, because of the gas coming in, remember, they were all panicking and fumbling around, but here they've sort of maybe gone into a daze, or they're all quite disorientated because of what's happening. So pick out 2 words, question 9, pick out 2 words in stanza 3 which tell us the soldier has difficulty moving. That's obviously throughout the poem. So you could have had scrambled or struggled. Now just for a little bit extra, I've just put what they would suggest. So scrambling, that obviously suggests moving out of a trench. They would be scrambling up because it's like a big ditch, isn't it? So there's a sense of urgency. You know, they're not slowly pawing their way up, pawing their way out. It's a scramble, so it's like mad rush. Struggled, so again, the thick pasty mud was mentioned, so it's the idea of making it difficult to move. I'm moving a lot today, I'm sorry if I'm off-putting. Okay, a little task for you now. So I've mentioned the command acted like a cold shower to revive the mumbling shadows. Who or what do you think are the mumbling shadows? Why is he talking about shadows and why are they mumbling? Alexa, play. Alexa, stop. You got it. I remembered Alexa today. She felt a bit left out. Clearly so does Holly, because if you can hear that, I don't know if you're picking it up, but her ears are constantly... She's going insane here. She's scrambling around. Right, so what did we come up with? So I've just come up with some ideas. Now remember, even when you're at school, the English teachers don't know everything. We may act like we do, but my interpretation of a poem is different from yours, is different from his, different from theirs. So there's no right or wrong answer in English, really. And that's where, well, okay, there are wrong answers, but there's lots of different, you know, connotations with things, and it could mean more than one thing. And that's why a lot of kids struggle with it a wee bit more than the scientific math subjects, because you want a right answer at the end. And it's not like that. So, well, especially with literature, poetry, I'm just giving Holly a nudge. What is wrong with her today? So this is just what I think. So the Mumbling Shadows, so remember the gas clouds that were mentioned in the first couple of stanzas are going to make it really hard to see, and because of that, and remember the panic that's around them, they've got the big gas mask on their face, so they're going to struggle to see anything and hear anything clearly. I can see clearly now, the rain is gone. Love that song. Soars. I think I'm a bit hyper this morning. So is Holly, clearly. But also remember, in a war there's going to be lots of massive noises, bangs and roars and screeches, as we've done with Onomatopoeia. So that would affect your hearing as well. You know, have you ever been at a concert and you come home and it's like, ee! So because of that, any sound around them is going to be muffled. So it's just like they can't... So basically this means that they can't see people for, you know, they can't identify people because of the gas, and they can't hear properly. So that's why throughout, when there's 2 or 3 exclamation marks, that's because you have to shout to be heard. So obviously the commanding officer, whatever his command is, he's having to roar it. He'd make a good teacher. So there's just a sense of disorientation and confusion. Or any other idea you've come up with. By the way, morning cat, nice to have you back. Right, stanza 4. 10A, pick out any example of onomatopoeia from this stanza. You should know what they are now. There's a choice. Sucking, suck. Groaning, obviously I'm emphasising these. And squelch, and squelch. You've kind of got to get, obviously I'm exaggerating, I don't walk around doing that. Good morning, squelch. Otherwise, you know, make it put away. So any of those examples, so I'll just explain what the poet's telling us about the mud by these sounds, because I've just sort of described it in a bit more detail. So suck, suck. The noise the mud makes resembles the noise of someone slapping, so it's almost like the mud is trying to eat the soldiers, consume them, and they're finding it really difficult to obviously lift their feet, because it's like suck, suck, like that. So it's gripping their boots, pinning them, almost like it's dragging them down. Groaning, that's obviously a slightly different noise. That's more a groan, you know, like a teenager. So the noise the mud makes is deep and unclear, like it's expressing pain and displeasure. That's what a groan is. You know, a groan is not a positive noise, is it? So it's like, we're going to do close reading today. You know, that. It could imply that the mud is struggling with the weight of the war, you know, if you're thinking outside the box. So because it's been personified, so it's literally struggling, because obviously all the cannons and all the footfall would be heavy, but it's also metaphorically heavy because it's had enough of all this war above it. So it's shown its frustration. Squelch is very much like sucking, so it's the wet sticky mud making a soft unpleasant suckling noise, or sucking noise, which emphasises their struggle. So they're treading heavily with the boots. And again, that's going to make things doubly worse, isn't it? I mean, it's not bad enough that you're about to be killed, and you've got gas coming at you, and you've got explosions and, you know, bullets coming at you and bayonets, but you can't even move because of the mud. I mean, that really helps. Okay, question 11. Pick out the expression which makes the mud seem alive and write down the name of it if you know it, and you will now because of yesterday's lesson. If you haven't watched it, please watch it back. So, personification is the technique. Remember the word person is in there, that's just the way to remember it. And obviously it makes something that's inanimate or deed seem alive. So in this case, it's really the wet earth tried to creep into our stockings. So That's just their legs. Sucking and groaning is obviously personification as well, but because you're doing something different, it would be this expression. So another wee minute then. Why is that an effective description? The wet earth tried to creep into our across our stockings. So think about the word creep, what that suggests. What does it suggest about the mud and its movement? Is it a good thing? Alexa, play. Alexa, stop. So you're thinking the word creep is obviously a verb and a noun, a verb doing. We haven't actually done verbs, we might do that. So to creep is a bit like the stealth earlier, and a creep as a person is obviously not nice either. So I've just said that it makes the mud seem criminal-like, or like an animal. You know, like an animal creeping up on its on its prey, sneaking and unwelcome. So it won't leave the men alone. It's the idea that it's just attaching itself to them and it's slowly taking over their bodies, or their legs at least. So it's like they can't escape. Almost like unwanted insects as well. They sort of creep on you like creepy crawlies. So it's not a nice image. It just suggests that the men are so fed up with the conditions that they've just had it. Bless their wee socks. Cotton socks usually, I say. And that's stanzas 4 and 5. Even though it's 3 and 4. So 3 and 4, told you I was their maths teacher. So today's lesson was 3 and 4. Tomorrow we're going to do 5 and 6. And then on Friday we're going to look at how to analyse a poem. So if you haven't done so, get the questions done for tomorrow before the lesson so that we can just go over them, because this will all help when you're doing your notes. And what you can also do is use the notes that are on these slides to add to your poem, but we're going to do a wee lesson on that on Friday and how to annotate a poem, which means make it look all fancy and colourful. Alright? If you haven't done so, please join, like and share the Aim Higher Facebook page and YouTube channel. Tell your pals, tell your ma, tell your grannies, tell your... I couldn't think of anything else that rhymes. Paw. There you go. And if you're not on Facebook, there are the links to the Google Classrooms where I'm going to put everything. I forgot to put the personification stuff up yesterday. I was so busy, so I'll put that on today. So there's a little bit of work on that too if you fancy doing it, if you're a wee bit fed up. And if you'd like to say thanks, you know what to do. Thank you very much. Alright, have a lovely day. It looks sunny outside. Get out and get active. Socially distance. Have a fab day. Thanks for tuning in. Alexa, play.